Hi, this is Ashley Frelke, and we're about to look over the room, make sure everything's good. Again, just back in the bedroom. Okay. All right. So, Marshall McLuhan, he argued that the medium is the message, meaning that the way the information is delivered shapes the community and how it's perceived. Well, while I was reading this article, I started wondering what happened what happens when the medium just, you know, disappears. The article is an online news article and it's published by the Associated Press, AP News. And it's just basically newspapers closing and news deserts growing for the news industry. News deserts are basically places that no longer have news. The author explains that the newspapers across the United States continue to close, creating what they call the news deserts. These are places with little or no local news, and also explains that there's 136 newspapers closed in 1 year, leaving 50 million Americans in areas with limited local news, mainly digital outlets, and have not been replaced what has been lost. And some don't even have any kind of news. So the analysis I got is the article really made me realize this isn't really a story about the newspapers and just being gone. It is a story about what happens when communities lose one of the ways they communicate with themselves. Without local newspapers, who's covering the sports? City council, city events, school board, missing people, uh, corruption, anything, basically anything. Who's looking at anything or anyone for the things that are being done? How do you know if you have a killer next door because he got caught killing just yesterday, but nobody knows? Probably nobody. So, the article frames newspapers as essential to democracy and community accountability. It spends more time discussing what communities lose than exploring whether digital alternatives like local Facebook groups, independent newsletters, community podcasts can fill some of those roles. That framing encourages readers to view and decline the newspapers primarily as they lose rather than considering how local communication might be evolving. I don't think McLuhan imagined communities without local newspapers, but his theory helped me think about this differently. If the medium shapes society, then losing the medium also changes society. Maybe the message isn't just the stories that disappear, maybe the message becomes silence. When no one is consistently reporting on local government, schools, or public safety, communities don't just lose information. They lose accountability and a shared understanding of what's happening around them. Again, a killer next door. For someone studying journalism, this article made me realize journalism isn't only telling stories. Sometimes it's about making sure there is still someone there to tell them to. If communities lose local journalism, they may also lose part of their shared identity and accountability. To this day, I don't believe that things are ending up the way they should. And if we think about it, if newspapers disappear, where do people gotta go? Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, X, AI, and who controls those? Algorithms, corporations, advertising. Now the gatekeepers are different. And also, what if you don't even have the ability to view the medium and hear the message? If everything's on the phone and everything's digital, and what about for the people that don't get to enjoy the good things in life that everybody calls them and have a phone? Will they ever know that the streets are full of a serial killer? No. And is that really fair? I mean, I know that it's not about fairness, but we should still care about local journalism and in keeping everybody accountable and letting people know when there's danger. Thank you, Ashley Frelke. Talk to you later.